Okay, the marker says 20 minutes, so we don't have any time to lose. And we've been discussing for a few minutes before the conference. You all have amazing stories, so I just wanted to kick off the conversation by giving you a minute to explain what you do. So I'm sure it's very interesting.
Perfect. So I'm Oscar. I'm the CEO of a company made of genes. We work in the field of transactional genomics, and this is something that maybe you feel that it's not so useful, but imagine a world where everyone owns their own genome, and every time that you go to the doctor, you need to give this information, but this information is somehow copied by your insurance company, or even your government is providing that. So this creates a new scenario where it's really difficult to ensure the privacy of this genetic data, which is the most intimate and personal data we have. So we are working in that, in the privacy, legal, technological framework for enabling that.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Enass. I am a co-founder at H2Go Power, and what we do at H2Go Power, we're developing hydrogen batteries, and these batteries can be seen as a complementary or an alternative to lithium-ion batteries that we today use in many mobile devices. The reason why we are working on a project like this is because we want to store energy at large scale, and that's where lithium-ion batteries have many technical limitations in their cost, in their capacity of storage, in how long they can store energy. And if we're going to adapt clean and renewable technologies, we need to figure out a way which is reliable and affordable to store energy for a long period of times. Lithium-ion batteries cannot do that, and this is what we're trying to develop at H2Go Power, a reliable and affordable solution for energy storage.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as you very rightly said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I was really lucky to start creating companies in 1994. I've floated several, I've exited several, and I started investing into startups in 1996. I'm not exactly a VC. There is something that I don't like about the VC, is that any fund that invests in a startup actually has a limit date. So the funds are created for 10 to 12 years, and they have to liquidate their assets by the time that they arrive at the end. And I have seen so many companies that are extremely promising fail because they have chosen the wrong investor, who ends up liquidating their company in the middle of a growth spurt, which is actually condemning the company to quick death. And that's really a nightmare. And so I have been trying to find financing solutions that correspond to the technologies that we are talking about. The time it takes for any technology to become a market breakthrough can be quite long, and it usually is longer than you planned. And so having investors or a group of investors like families or Uber angels that actually invest for the very long term and do not need a limit date for exit makes a big difference, certainly into breakthrough technologies like the ones we have here. There are interesting promises, like it will make a difference in the world in 2 years, and very often it's a bit longer than we planned. And so it's really important, I think, that the investment world now moves in the direction where it has a social need, a social impact to fulfill, and the only way to fulfill it is change the way that investors are investing today. That's what I'm trying to do.
So another very interesting part of our former conversation was that it's important to understand or to share what we understand by changemaker. I think a very important part of the mission of technology review, and probably MIT as a whole, is to either create or identify people that are special. If you see the world that we live in today, you're living and using technologies that have been invented by single people. And it's not a lot of people. So the invention of the light bulb or the explosion engine or the microchip or the transistor have been single inventions that have created huge dramatic changes in the world. And is that kind of people that we're obsessed about. That's why we organize the Innovators Under 35 Awards for the last 18 years. And I also would like to hear your opinion on what you understand by a changemaker and why it matters so much. Any order you want.
Okay, I'll shoot first. I think there is a major difference between a changemaker and an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone who is aiming at some form of personal freedom, and that personal freedom does not encompass all the needs of society around him. The statistics that I can state to you is that in Belgium we have about 4% of the population that define themselves as entrepreneurs. In France, you guys are lucky, you have about 16%, so it's a lot higher. You're a much more entrepreneurial nation. And in the US, it's 51%. I want to be my own boss is part of the American dream. Changemakers push that envelope one step further, and they say, okay, not only do I want to earn my freedom, or even my freedom is not really that important, what I really want to make is bring something that makes a difference for a certain social group or for all society around me today. That's exactly what Enass is doing today by bringing energy into, I would say, more far communities. You're actually allowing people to have their life changed, so it makes a lot of a difference. But personal enrichment, it's not at the core of the movement of Changemakers today. They really have an idea and they want it brought to the largest number of people because they think it's useful, because they think it's going to ease their life and make it more profitable, more enjoyable, and more fun to live. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, very often. So I just have something to add, because I do agree with everything you said.
Thank you.
Which is a change maker is definitely an entrepreneur, but not every entrepreneur is a change maker. And that is because of the type, the size, and the impact of problems that change makers choose to tap into. And very often, if we look outside to the famous cases that we know, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and many others, I mean, they created movements with whatever products they choose to introduce to societies. And the fact that their products or their work affected and impacted billions of people around the world, and that is the most outstanding thing about their work, is the impact and the amplification of their ideas and visions that affected people that they don't know and they will not even have the chance to meet in their daily life, but still their work, their vision, their ideas touch so many people's life. Manufactured entrepreneurs, or the hype around producing as many entrepreneurs, it can be good if it leads to producing more visionaries and more change makers. But it could have as well a negative impact if we keep pushing a lot of people to become entrepreneurs without really having a major social issue to solve. So yeah, just to add to what you said.
So I think what you mean is that instead of teaching them tax accounting, we should be teaching them philosophy to new entrepreneurs. That would probably make sense, or at least maybe both, because tax accounting can have its own uses.
Or maybe shed more light on the major issues that we collectively need to solve together. So instead of spreading like the ideas and the efforts everywhere, perhaps we should focus on major issues that are of paramount importance, solve them first, and then move on to perhaps a different level.
And what is the discourse on major issues if it is not philosophy? I'm just kidding.
So I think that trying to define what is a change maker, we should take into account that there are different fields where you can make changes, from social fields, politics, etc. If we're talking about technology and we're talking about people who changes the technological state of the art of a sector, I will say that there are two kinds of change makers. One are the accidental change makers, and for example, I'm thinking about Airbnb. Airbnb started as two guys in San Francisco just renting their place to other people. And eventually, this turned out to disrupt the whole hospitality sector. And I guess that their intention when they started doing that was not disrupting a sector, was just, having some revenues from renting their place. There are another kind of technological change makers that are what we were talking before, the visionaries, no? The people that they have a vision of what they want to accomplish. And it's not trivial to reach this new state. No, it's not trivial to pass from the status quo to the new state of the art. And to do that, you cannot follow usually it's not easy to follow the straight line. You need to go like doing different turns and pivoting and looking for supports, and especially when you are a startup. So I think that there are, apart from all the social change makers and technological change makers, I think that we can define these two different kinds of roles.
I would say that what I see from my experience as a long-time investor is that what makes the difference in own personal behavior between an entrepreneur and the change maker is that change makers have a true, profound, genuine caring about people, about the people that they want to serve, for whom they want to create a product or a service. There is this willingness to go one step further in understanding their needs, spending time with them, and understanding how they can improve the products or services that they are looking for. You know, the model that I spoke about the combination lock, that actually you're trying to find the best combination in order for the lock to work, and the lock is actually delivering a product or service that really tends to the needs of the people, and that asks for a lot of compassion, a lot of caring on a day-to-day basis. And the best example I have is a company called Airbnb. When they were looking for their second round of capital, they were in Los Angeles meeting investors, and one day they meet Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn, and Reid Hoffman asks one of his pet questions. He says, "Is your service successful anywhere? Is there anywhere on the planet where somebody is using Airbnb today?" And they said, "No, not really. Although we have a little bit of success in New York, we can see that there are several hundreds of apartments who are getting rented on a regular basis." And then Reid Hoffman said, "What are you doing here? What are you doing in Los Angeles when your customers are in New York? Move to New York, go and meet them, and understand what they need." So that's what they did. They moved to New York. They ended up in the city, and they started calling the owners of these apartments, and they started visiting them, okay? It meant for them opening up some sort of vulnerability, admitting that they were not such a big company, because as one customer, you'd get visited by the founder. But they started looking at those apartments, and they said, well, those apartments are wonderful, they are beautiful, but the photographs that we can see on the website are really crap. We need something of better quality. And so they started taking photography courses themselves, started photographing the apartments, and that's when the Airbnb story really took off. So it's all about the time that the founders, the visionaries themselves, took to care about the people that they wanted to serve. That actually was the turning point into their company. All the rest is just history. So if ever you want to create something, spend some time with your first customers, the first people who start using your product. Spend a lot of time with them, because you are going first to start to like them, which is going to help you care for them, and it's going to help you take your product or services one step further. That's really what I wish to say. It really is the genuine caring that changes, that defines change makers, I think.
You said something very important.
Did I? Thank you.
Meeting Reid Hoffman was crucial to them. So my next question is, what can we do to enable change makers to make change? There are critical people you meet, there are critical situations, lessons learned, there's a good investor, there's a bad investor. So what are the critical things that you guys need around you to be able to multiply the effects of your work?
I will say that there is no way to make a recipe of that. I mean, it's serendipity. It's completely, it's like finding a girlfriend. I mean, it's really like that. I mean, at the end, there are no receipts, or there are no methods that you can follow to repeat one after other successes in startups. So I really think that you need to be in the right place in the right moment, meeting the right people, and expecting that both of you have the mood that day that is good enough to make yourself understand the needs of the other party. I would say that it's very difficult to make generalizations in this sector.
Enass, what do you think?
I totally agree that it's a really difficult question to answer, because there isn't one type of an investor that you meet out there. Some investors are very specialized in looking at the financial structure of your business. And for some businesses it works, that's what they have at early stage, and for businesses like us, it's not exactly what we're good at. So that type of investors wouldn't be the right type of investors to speak to. But some investors would tell you, you know what, we really like what you do, we can't invest in you because of our criteria, however, we'll give you feedback. And that feedback is basically your work plan for the next few months. And meeting these types of investors have helped us so much so far, because the work plan was very focused on knowing exactly what we're working on to get to a level where we can get their money. Like my favorite type of investors are the people who care about the money but less. They care more about the impact that you're making. They care about your journey. They care about where you want to get to at the end of your journey, or at a certain level. And that because of a personal association of something that they would really like to invest to, even if it's as a loss. But it's not really the majority type of investors, and it's not easy to find them. So
that lands the ground for Jose really well.
Thank you. Lots of things to say. I like your question. What do we need around us in order to bring more change making into this world? We need no more VCs, frankly. We need patient money. We need caring money. And what I find is that when I meet rich people who want to invest, or large families who want to invest into businesses, there is really that angle of caring. There is really that angle of social impact every time that I meet these people. So it's there. Whenever I meet middle-class people who say, I would like to put my money into something, what would you advise me? There is also that level of caring. There is also that necessity to know that their money is not working on something evil, and on the contrary, that it is working on something really fruitful. And then there is this class of people there in between. There are ambitious people. They are hurried. They don't have any time. They don't have any patience. And very often, they don't have that much of caring. And those that I meet are very often fund managers. Not all of them, there are exceptions. But I find that very often when you create a fund, the fact that you define that there is a limit date on it says that in 10 years or in 12 years, you as a fund manager, you know that this will be your day of reckoning where you are going to make a maximum money. And those people I find are the ones that tend to run too fast in order to take a profit out of the various initiatives that they have been supporting. And as you very rightly said, very often when you arrive with a change-making project, they tend to say that you are not into their criteria. And the first criteria that they need is to make sure that they will make a lot of money fast, which is exactly what we don't want to do. What we want to do is create a difference, and it does take time. So my idea of VC is the following. If you walk, they walk with you. If you run, they run with you. But if you fall, they fuck you. That's basically what I have seen around in the world of VC. So I think what we need tomorrow is a world of investors that care and take the time and know that creating a new idea and bringing a new idea, a new vision into the world is like basically educating a child. It takes a lot of time. It might take longer than you think. The day the baby is born, you think you are going to have him or her around you for 20 or 21 years. It might be 30 years. I don't care about that, all right? We are going, each and every one of us is going to take the time to take care of our children. And I think bringing a new idea to the world is exactly the same. We don't know when the time limit is set. And so there is a discrepancy between the time limit of funds and the time limit of new ideas in order for them to change our world.
I think that coincides a lot with our vision. I think that I was mentioning you that Innovators Under 35 is my favorite project that I do every year. And if connecting entrepreneurs is interesting, connecting high-impact entrepreneurs or change makers is even more important. We're realizing as the community gets larger that advice between accomplished change makers and emerging change makers becomes really important. If you're going to get advice from an accomplished entrepreneur, if he's already been successful in gene sequencing or in catalysis of hydrogen, it's going to be tremendously important for you, and he's probably going to be able to care about you, understand you, and guide you through the right way. I think probably the mission of Technology Review is to identify the new emerging technologies and talk about them in a fashion that it makes them easy to understand, but it also provides an impact idea of why these technologies matter. But this is the physical representation of those technologies, and really, if you look at the former years that the competition was held, you can find amazing stories like the founders of Google or Tesla or Spotify or Facebook. And I think we are running out of time, but I'd like to get a couple questions from the audience if somebody wants to speak up. Anyone?
Not enough coffee.
Okay, so maybe you can talk to them in the break.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pedro.
Thank you, Jose.